Are there questions in the audience? Yes, back in the back. And while you're getting it to him, this goes back to a point that Tom made. We have a question remotely saying, along with all the information that's being made accessible to the public, we also want to know what kinds of information are not being made public, the sort of data inventories that agencies are not doing, apparently. So this would be a useful thing to take back to reemphasize internally what people are saying on the outside, that we really need to know everything that's there in order to know what is high value and what to ask for.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead. Yeah.
So actually, this is a great point. So we're engaging in work on this right now. So this may be hard to believe, but actually HHS doesn't even know all the data it has.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I believe it.
So we're now going through an exercise where we're trying to inventory all the data that we have.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that's obvious is obvious, like the surveys that we do.
Right.
But a lot of our most important data is what I call data exhaust. It's actually data that's a byproduct of something like claims processing that's in fact incredibly valuable, but isn't categorized as a national survey on yada, yada, yada. Right. So we're trying to inventory all of that. And then what we're doing is we're starting a process where twice a year, an HHS Data Council is going to be reviewing with each agency at HHS the complete inventory of all the data they have, what subset they have actually made public, and what subset they commit to make public in the next 6 months. Because as Bill Corr, our Deputy Secretary, said, he said, look, people come, people go at HHS, but process lives forever. So just rewire the DNA, and it'll just keep running.
That's right.
So, but one interesting idea is I don't see any reason why we couldn't take that inventory and publish that. Because that in itself would be interesting.
Yes.
Unless again it breaks the law of some kind, but I can't imagine.
No.
So that's a great idea. We should do that. I'll take that back.
Get to our questioner.
My name's John Bell. I'm on the staff of the Public Interest Declassification Board. Some of you may be aware that the board has recently launched a set of draft proposals to the president on transforming the classification system. Those are available on a publicly accessible blog, archives.gov/PIDB. You can find a link there. There's also some pamphlets out in the lobby. My question actually has to do with withholding, which is following up on what Todd was just talking about, as well as Jennifer's comment. One of the things that the board is actively advocating is this idea of using technological tools to enhance the review and not only the withholding, but also the release of information, in this case classified information, but could certainly have applicability in PII settings or other exemptable environments. So what I was asking, or what I'm interested in asking of the panel is, what opportunities do you see for the use of new technologies like context accumulation, predictive analytics, natural language processing? How could that be applied to both enhance review and then also enhance public access? Tom has actually offered some comments to the board, which are very much appreciated, and I'd be interested to hear from the other panelists on the topic.
I'd like to talk to Tom.
I think we want to hear from Tom.
Well, I could briefly restate some of the comments I made to the declassification board. I am by no means a declassification expert, but I think there are technological opportunities here. It's an incredible challenge. The declassification backlog is staggering. A big part of that, of course, is reforming classification procedures. But given what we've got to work with, how are we going to prioritize it and speed it through review? And I think that there are things you can do related to trying to extract some clues about which documents can be most quickly removed from the queue. Using technologies like natural language processing, Bayesian filters. There's all kinds of great technical gadgets that we can throw at the problem. I think there's not going to be a magic bullet, though, certainly. It's going to require a lot of man hours and probably additional resources. One other thing I would point to is that this actually has large effects on the question of releasing data in machine-readable formats. The fact that our redaction tools didn't work right as government moved into the digital age has left a really awful legacy where people don't rely upon digital redaction because so many mistakes were made where a black box was drawn over text, and if you highlight it, you can still see the text. At this point, agencies, if they have a redaction task, feel that they have to print out the documents, use a magic marker, and then scan them back in. Right. And in the process, an incredible amount of information is lost because you're going from text to an image, and taking the step backwards is very, very difficult to do computationally. So it's a problem that needs better tools and probably better resources.
Here's a question from outside that I had asked all of you on our preparatory phone call and got a strong reaction to. But this is not a plant. Given that not all people want or can use data sets, particularly in machine-readable format, does releasing data sets meet the administration's goal of transparency, especially for accountability?
It's critical, but not enough, right? We want both the wholesale and the retail functions from government.
Right, right.
And I would say, actually, the good news is that I think the government does more naturally think in terms of retail. Right?
Yes.
And so,
Right.
And actually what I've been pushing for is the wholesale side.
Right.
I said, look, all the stuff we can do on retail will be dwarfed 100-fold
Right.
by what people will do with the wholesale data.
Right.
But I think that, I'm finding, at least with HHS, that people it's not hard to convince them about the retail piece. So just one example.
That's how they think normally.
Yeah. And so, for example, actually, hopefully very soon we'll be launching a Tags 2.0 website that provide much more intuitive search of our grants.
Ah,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Great.
So, so people are paying, close attention to retail experiences like that. But as Tom said on our call, we need to push hard to keep machine-readable raw data right in the center of the target zone, and just keep pushing that out there as well. So,
Tom, Jennifer?
I think that the retail wholesale question is an important one. I agree with my fellow panelists that wholesale data is incredibly important because it can facilitate uses you don't expect. Right now, Sunlight's looking at the feasibility of doing an analysis of comments submitted to regulatory dockets. And there's a lovely website that's been created for engaging with these dockets if you're someone who wants to read other people's comments on a particular issue or submit your own comment. It's completely useless for the kind of analysis we want to do, though, and it's going to take months to pull this data down if we're able to do it at all. It's a great example of why the underlying data being released should be the first priority, and then if government feels that it's sufficiently in the public interest, resources should be devoted to that kind of retail experience.
Well, we've just about run out of time, so I would like you to join me in thanking our panelists for their time and for our extraordinary discussion and sharing of insight with all of us today. So please join me.